This is the What About You podcast, and I'm here today with Tyler Kaufman. Tyler, I'd like to start out with a prayer. Do you want to lead or want me to?
I'll let you lead.
Okay. God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to talk to Tyler. And I'd ask that an important message come through for some people listening. They get some things out of this that can be beneficial to them in their lives. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and so Tyler, where were you born?
And I'm going to draw a blank on the name of the town. New Jersey is where I'm from. I always get the town confused. You think I would know that by now. But I was born in New Jersey. My parents are both from New York. I was raised in New Jersey until I was 18. Pretty regular childhood, only child. Lived in 3 different houses as a child, and then eventually moved down to New Orleans to go to Loyola in 2006.
Right after the storm.
Right after, which is partially why I came down. A little background of how I ended up here. Both my parents are from New York, Brooklyn and Long Island. My grandfather on my mother's side worked on the piers in New York with management of the ships and the cargo, and was offered a job down here to work at the port, higher role. And so my grandfather took the opportunity, moved the family down, and my mom was raised here from age 5 until she was about 22 or so. And so as a result, her family has been here her whole life. And then when the whole college time came around, my mom said, why don't you look at schools in New Orleans? You have family there. And being that the city was rebuilding, there were some nice scholarships available, there was some incentive, and it was just a different pace. It was, you could stay local, you could go to school in Rhode Island or New Jersey or wherever, or you could do something different. So came on down here.
And so was your mom raised in New Orleans?
She was, initially she was in the city. And then I think they moved to Metairie when she was, let's say, probably 9 or so.
And then what brought her back to New York?
I think she had a desire to go back home, what she would call home, to make it in New York City, make it in the big city. And so I think she had a desire to do that. And after, like I said, 22 or so, she said, I'm going back. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how, but she went up there and she lived with her aunt for about 6 months until she found a job. So she went up there with a dream, and that was it.
And what kind of work did she want to do?
She was in marketing. So she worked with Time Warner, which I think at the time was just Warner. She did PR, media, marketing. She worked for Viacom, which was Nickelodeon. So she worked on just various things in the media industry. Oh. And then she stopped a lot of that when I was born, mainly because she didn't like what she was working on. A lot of the, let's say, content started to get not as family friendly, or things that were violent, or just things in general that was marketing something that you don't stand behind. And she said, I think I've had enough. I've got a son. That's all I need.
I don't want to sell this to other people's kids if I wouldn't want my own kid to be exposed to it, right?
I think I live in a similar way of, do I want to put my name on something that I'm not proud to show to family?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to live, basically, is because that's a good thing about family too, is it just keeps you grounded in, if you wouldn't want your family to see this, then it's probably something that's better that, there's a reason that you feel that way,
I think there's also a link between people that are close to their family and that moral compass versus people that are not close. I know people who are distant from their parents or their siblings, and I think they have less of a guide with what they will do in life. And so I think those who are close have a feeling of, let's do the right thing.
Yeah, that's one of the many things, gifts of having an opportunity from a family that's that's close like that. Would be great if everybody had that, because you're born into it. Mm-hmm. You don't really get to choose, and so I guess both of us sounds like we're blessed to have good families that supportive and all that kind
That
of
care.
thing. Care.
Well, I think there's a difference between your parents being proud of you and then making your parents proud. Because by default, oh, we're so proud of you. But then there's that, what can I do that will make them proud? And even that being just doing something that would not displease them.
Yeah.
All within reason, of course.
Yeah.
You know, if I stay up past, 9 o'clock, sorry.
So you you grew up in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Is that in the greater New York area part of New
It
Jersey?
is. I think we were roughly 16 miles from New York City. So comparatively to this area, I don't want to say it's like Metairie to New Orleans. Distance-wise, it's definitely further apart, but it's still a little more spread out. There are very densely populated areas all within the state, but New Jersey still has a lot of land. Further south is where they call it the Garden State. That's how the name is from. There actually are lots of farms there. So New Jersey to me was still very peaceful compared to, let's say, New York City, where it's cars, skyscrapers, honking. Here, I don't find as much of that. The North Shore might be a little comparable to where I grew up, but even that's too much of an extreme of just openness. It's really hard to do an apples to apples comparison. But my analogy is just that going to New York City was, wow, we're in this major city. Going back home was, okay, we have a house, we have a yard. It's a neighborhood. The nearest store is a little bit of a drive. This is a neighborhood only. There's not as much honking and traffic as, let's say, other areas. So a little bit different than here.
And did you go to public school?
I did a mix. I did both. Went to public for, I guess, the first half, Catholic for the last half, and then Catholic school down here for undergrad.
And so you, what did you study at Loyola?
Marketing. Undergrad was in marketing, and then I went to UNO to get my MBA in marketing as well. And marketing is something that I still use in a variety of ways. But having an MBA was something that I wanted to do, something to, I guess, keep within that, whether I utilize it directly or not, it's just another layer of education that you can't take away.
Yeah. Education, especially when you're young, it's a good investment in your future. And, it's just
it takes effort. That grad school is something you have to do. No one's doing it for you. You're not a student athlete where you have tutors to help you and push you through. It's a conscious choice to go to school after the first 4 years and get something else. So that was something that I told myself I want to do it. Found a way.
When did you start with photography?
College. I started my freshman year. I almost want to say I started photography within the first few months of being there, but it felt pretty close to it.
How did that start?
Great question. Photography was something I've always been interested in, but didn't know anything about it. I knew what a camera was, as a young kid. Oh, Dad, give me the camera, even the video camera. It was just it's fun, but I didn't know anything. My senior year in high school, I was with the yearbook a little bit, and I had a point and shoot camera, nothing fancy. Took a couple photos. They used it in the yearbook. That was that.
It was in the digital era already?
Yeah, It was very primitive, but it was just, okay, it's a camera. And that's all I knew. Knew nothing about that. Didn't know what a camera was called. I was at zero other than just take this thing in your hand and shoot with it. Freshman year of college, I had this thought in my head, oh, you're on your own. You're independent now. Oh, you should do something that's a college move. Sometimes people might dye their hair or get a piercing or something like that. That's there. I'm free. You can't tell me what to do. And I said, well, maybe I'll get a camera. I've always wanted one. And that seems like not a bad thing to do, but no one can tell me no. And I was DJing my freshman year. I had actually DJ'd in middle school and high school for fun on the side, little dances, and wasn't planning on this, but I met some people in school who said, oh, so-and-so, they need help. Can you fill in? I said, okay, sure. Wasn't planning on it. But I started making money as a freshman. Wasn't planning on that. So now I have this additional income that was not on my radar. I said, oh, you could buy a camera now. Yeah, let's do that.
How were you making money without the camera before?
You mean in
As a
college?
you said you were making money as a photographer, but you didn't have a camera?
No, I wasn't doing anything. I had been DJing in high school, and that was just for fun and a little bit of money. But in college, there was no plan to work while I was in school. I was just there to go to school. Mm-hmm. And then I was asked to fill in and help DJ a couple times at a couple places around Uptown. Got some money, which I wasn't planning on. I said, oh, well, this money you didn't anticipate having, what are you going to, foolishly spend it on? And that's when I said, oh, yeah, you've always wanted a camera. Do that. And so I almost bought a camera on a whim without really doing much research. But I noticed the person at Loyola who had photographed me, I think for the cross-country team, because I ran cross-country and track for 2 years at Loyola. I was like, oh, that guy probably knows what he's doing. And so Harold was his name. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he became my mentor in college. And Harold gave me some advice. And I said, oh, should I get this camera? Should I get that camera? Kind of just gave me some insight to get started. But I bought a camera. Didn't know anything about it. Went to the school paper at Loyola because I also had seen some of the people there covering events, cross country and things of that sort. And they said, sure, you want to take pictures? We'll help you. And they gave me one of their cameras at first to use. And they basically said, here are a couple settings, try this, go ahead and push that. And I was free. They just said, go take pictures and come back. No real guidance. But I quickly learned, oh, I think I know what I'm doing. People seem to like it. All right, this is good. So once I started working for the school paper, and when I say work, it was, all volunteer. I started then using my own camera, and student organizations started to find out, oh, can you come to our event? So then I had, whether it was Greek Life or different student, government bodies saying, hey, come on over, we'll give you some money. I said, oh, wow, I can make money with this camera? Oh. So that then changed this investment of buying a camera to now this camera is going to pay for itself. All while I'm in school for marketing with no ambition of what I'm going to do afterwards. Now, from there, I started taking photos at Loyola, more for the school paper and even for some of the teams. And what's interesting is that I was running track my freshman year. And back then, we practiced all over the place, City Park, but Tulane had a track back then, which they don't anymore. And we were practicing one day, and the Tulane track team was there. And I saw the coach, and we were just making small talk, and we were both competing at LSU at their meet. And I was planning on going to the meet to run, but then also to take pictures of the other runners on my team because why not? School paper, things of that sort. So I told the other coach for Tulane, I'll be there. Do you need any pictures? I had business cards, which I had made before going to college. I'll get into that in a second. But I gave her my card, and she passed it along to someone in the office there. So someone called me saying, oh, do you want to take pictures for us? How much do you want? And I said, oh, how much money-wise? Wow. So I got paid to shoot a track meet that I was also competing in, all while I was a freshman in college. And that is sort of how my career started. And then from there, it just progressively got better and better.
I don't know what your beliefs are, but do you feel like this is kind of like God's hand in your life?
Oh, yeah. I think God is all present. I think whether we're saying the name God, the concept of God, whatever people's beliefs are, I believe there is a God, and I believe God is making things happen, whether we're choosing for it to or not. Because
there's plenty of people who bought a camera in 2006 and, took pictures here and there, but these things, happened for you, and you were inspired to ask certain people, let people know that. But I mean, there's certain things where, to me, I can kind of see God's hand for your lives, just making things happen that are meant to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Well, everything I believe does happen for a reason. The good, the bad, everything in between. Hopefully we can learn from both sides of things, whether it's adversity or something positive. But in this case, I don't think if I had gone to school up north that these opportunities would have happened to me there. Maybe, but I can't say that. My mother had encouraged me to look at Loyola. So I look at all of that as, my mother had that instinct. Do this, try that. And I believe God being the power that is over everything, that every one of those voices, every one of those opportunities is all something that happened for a reason and that I didn't ignore it. And I don't always know in the moment, oh, I'm going to New Orleans. Oh, okay. But if you're open to it and you listen, you try to find what the meaning is behind things, you can sometimes see things in a different way.
And do you think there's something to growing up in New Jersey and then going to college, someplace far away, especially with a kind of a different culture in New Orleans than a lot of places, as opposed to if you would have went to college in New Jersey? Is there more value to you if you're getting out of where you're surrounded by New Jerseyans and you're different? Versus, just like if I grew up in the New Orleans area and I went to school in New Jersey, there's not hardly anybody from New Orleans there. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I'm just saying that it
was a clean slate. I think I can say that even if I went to school in California, not that the same thing would have happened, but I think I wasn't clouded by my familiar surroundings. I wouldn't have had, let's say, friends or people I knew, or let's say going home on the weekends, or just whatever it may have been. I was in a new city. Yes, I have family down here, but it wasn't like they were showing up at class, say, hey, did you do your English homework? So I was not, my mind was open to whatever I was seeing. New Orleans was rebuilding and all these people from around the world. I can't say what it would have been like to go to school up north, but there were a lot of people from other countries at Loyola. So that also helped, just shape some of my cultural awareness, things of that sort. And I think that all that collectively just had my mind not where it was used to being. And you talk about growth mindset and things of that sort. I think being somewhere new allowed that canvas to paint itself versus, all right, here's where you are. Here's how it's going to be. Keep it the same.
So let's go from freshman year. Things are progressing with taking pictures, the two-lane opportunity. So where does it go further? How does the camera career grow from there?
It's all networking. And I don't want to say it's who you know, because while that might be true in certain areas, you will meet someone on your own. So whether an introduction happens or not, you can meet people, and that's half of it. My freshman year, I think, ended pretty strong because I also photographed Jazz Fest my freshman year, which I thought was fun. It was neat. But I think several years later is when I went, wow, you photographed Jazz Fest, as a 19-year-old in college with almost no experience. And that was all due to meeting, whether they were other students who were doing similar to me or meeting other people who freelance or people at the newspaper. It all led to different areas that helped my career grow because on my own, hi, I'm just a person. But other people then would say, oh, I can't make this job. I was, hired to photograph this event. Can you do it for me? And then that starts networking. You start growing. So jumping ahead, sophomore year now, I think sophomore year, I was photo editor of the school paper, still running at the time, which was a lot to handle, but I made it all work. But then I started photographing for Tulane, doing most of their sports. And that started leading to other areas. I'm pretty sure Loyola hired me a couple times to photograph sporting events for them. And it just started growing. Then it slowly started getting outside of the Loyola Tulane circle. I started assisting the Hornets with some of their photo media days when they take pictures of all of the players in different outfits, and just getting my foot in the door, learning the ropes of like the sports industry and just the bigger leagues. And, putting in my what's the word for that?
10,000 hours?
Yeah. Or just putting in my dues to do things that are at the bottom of the tier for just learning how things work in the industry, working with people that have done, covered Olympics or done, front covers for Time magazine, things like that. And just helping them set up a light stand, things like that. Again, all from just meeting different people and networking and being open. If we're talking about advice, a lot of the younger people today don't want to be told feedback about themselves and or not get to the finish line right away. And of course, I'm ambitious, but I also knew this was a part of the process. and that people will see that you're, determined, you're driven, you want to be there. And people generally like to help people that are interested in learning, not standing around to take up space.
Was there a time where you felt like, okay, all of a sudden there's this birth here where I'm no longer this guy who got this camera and is getting paid to take pictures, but now I really feel like I'm switching over to becoming an actual professional photographer? Do you remember some sort of event or events like that?
Nothing singular, but there was definitely, I think I had a perspective of, okay, I'm in college, I'm going through college, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not spending my free time just sitting around or partying. There was still socializing, but when I would look at my calendar, oh, it's Thursday night, I've got a volleyball game to go shoot. Hey, what are you doing tonight, Tyler? I'm working. I'll be back at 9. Oh, okay. And so that was sort of an awakening that, all right, your schedule is not normal and you're working while you're in school, but it's a little unorthodox for most people that have, a job at a sandwich shop, or they're working within the department that they're, learning from. So for me, I started to see, oh, you're now choosing to do this. But there is a trade-off, because there were times I said, oh, everyone's going to this event, I wish I could go. Yeah, but I'm working. This is what I chose to do. So probably sophomore year into junior year was when I started seeing, you're buying equipment now. You're buying, pro grade cameras. You're doing this. So that's when it started moving towards you're making money at this. Not the belief just yet that I could live off of this, but that this was something to do that wasn't just an office job or not doing anything while in school.
And at some point you have to start thinking about it as far as like the tax things and things like, oh, I can write this off as far as in those types of things after a while, I imagine. And you're a business student, so I guess that kind of ties in. You're running a business. Mm-hmm. So were you kind of thinking about that? This ties in. This is my business, kind of, or
my degree? Yes. The tax part, no. Fortunately, my father was a CPA many years ago, and so taxes were his strength. So he was very good about helping me do taxes when I was starting out with that. So the writing things off was lesser of a thing as a student. But the business degree is, I don't want to say I had that aha, how do I use this now? But since leaving college and meeting other colleagues of mine who went to school for whatever they did that wasn't business, they all say, wow, you have like a marketing background. That's great, because you have to market yourself to get hired. And I'm always aware of that. So now my perspective on all this is, yes, having a marketing degree is fantastic, because not only do I know how to market myself, but if I'm working with a company, let's just say a food brand that's promoting something, and they tell me their vision, what they're trying to accomplish, I speak that language of, oh, okay, that's your marketing plan. This is what you're trying to do. This is my role for that. So I'm much stronger at translating and being on the same page as a lot of the clients that I work with.
And so sophomore year, without mentioning numbers, how does the amount of money that you're earning compare to someone who's working at the sandwich shop or doing the typical college job?
If the equipment was provided to me, it would be a very decent way to make a living at the time. However, there was a lot of initial startup cost. Just as a number, one lens back then, of course it costs more now, was, let's say, $1,100. And that's just for a single lens. So slowly I started to build out my camera package. Okay, I can afford this lens. I'll use this lens now. All right, I think I've been working long enough and I seem to be in this. I should probably get this lens now. So slowly I built that up, but I was still making money while doing it. So initially it was, I'm making money, but I'm also buying equipment. I'm not thriving in this just yet, but eventually that'll all turn around.
And how were you learning to get better as far as, there's this other lens that I should get, or I could capture this if I had this other lens? How you're learning about all these things to get better?
Mentors. Like I said, there were some people in college who were a couple years older than me that had given me some advice and shown me the ropes, gotten me involved with the school newspaper. But through all that, meeting other people outside of Loyola, I'm trying to think out loud now. I covered my first Saints game, I think my junior year. And that was, wow, I'm on an NFL sideline. Holy moly, how did this happen? But along that process, meeting other people at the games and finding out, oh, who do you shoot for? How does that work? What do you do? And then meeting these people that were willing to help and getting advice from them, getting feedback. Can I show you some pictures? Please tell me what you think. That's what started to shape all of it. The technical aspect was pretty easy. There wasn't a lot to learn, which is why when people go to school to major in, let's say, film or something, there's some value within that, but you don't need to go to school to learn how to take a picture. They're not teaching you how to pay the bills. There's a lot in between that. So to answer that initial question, a lot of the colleagues, as I call them now, were the ones who showed me what to do, what not to do. Here's what people like. Don't waste your time with this. And that's the feedback that helped me move to that next level.
So let's take it from the sophomore year. Fast forward, just either junior year. When did things change from what they're like in the sophomore year with the camera career? When did it hit a next gear? At what point?
That's a good question. I think work was progressively getting better while I was in college, but I don't think it had the same effect until I was done in school. Graduating was, you're done now. Your calendar is free. There's nothing else to worry about, so go make it now. I think my senior year, it became clear, okay, you're going to keep doing this. Grad school is still in mind. Okay, I want to go to grad school. I don't know it still wasn't, this is your career. It was, okay, maybe you'll do this, maybe you won't, but you want to have that MBA. It's not going to hurt you. And I didn't do my MBA right away. I think I started maybe a year and a half after I graduated from Loyola. So senior year is when there was that, yeah, let's keep doing this. It's not like you're going to quit. Now, of course, there was the question of, well, if I graduate, I don't live, on campus anymore. Where do I go? And so my folks were still living up north. My grandma was living down here, and sometimes for the summer I would stay with her. Other times I'd go up north and vice versa. So the plan was then, okay, let's, leave the dorms and the college is done. What will you do now? And between staying with my grandma for a couple months and then going back home, the plan was, all right, you're going to stay in New Orleans now, at least to see what the future holds, especially with grad school. So that first year out of college was when it was just me figuring out, what am I going to do? How do I keep working? How do I get more clients? And that was the first challenge, but the first major step to elevate myself outside of being a student.
And do you have to increase the amount of clients you're getting and the amount of money you're getting to make it switch from being a college job to something where you're supporting yourself?
Yeah, it's more, I would say, volume, because it's not suddenly I go, well, my pictures were subpar in college, pay me more now, because the goal has always been to take photos that are of that high standard. So it was more, okay, you photograph a volleyball game at Thursday night. That's one game. That's great. But what does Thursday look like for you? What else are you doing to either book more jobs, get future work on your website, things of that sort. So that's where then the calendar turned into, this is your schedule now. You're the freelancer. You have to then make these jobs come to you.
And so you started in 2006. Was anyone still using film at that time, or was everyone onto digital?
If you're asking in a professional sense, there may have been a handful of people that would shoot film as a secondary camera. And those are people that either still liked film or had something that was of value, because digital has come a long way. But when digital first came out, it was very, I want to say archaic, even though that's not the right word for it, but it was very primitive. Film was still a better quality. The resolution was higher. You could still do more with film in certain ways. And I think there were people that were doing digital because they had to for the quickness of it. The client wanted it, but they were still using film when they could, because you could still get a better picture in certain cases going film. And even today, film still has certain advantages.
Do you know how to do the film photography?
I'm lucky that I know how to do it, but I'm not going to say that I've ever done it in a working manner. I actually learned how to develop and process and do enlargements of film in camp starting in third grade. So I had some exposure to film way back then. And you could say, oh, well, you were a kid. What'd you know back then? But it was hands-on. I was in a dark room. I was, loading the canister, doing all of that, working in the room with no light, red light, all of that. So I have experience doing that, which is why I can appreciate what my colleagues before me did, because film was such a different world, and I've heard countless stories about it.
And so when the cameras you're using, it's like a SD kind of card or some sort of card like that, and you eject it and stick it into a drive on your computer, and then the pictures come up, and you run them through some sort of editing software.
That's correct.
Do you like a batch edit with it, or do you you kind of look at them one at a time? So delete a. How do you? What's your process for that back then?
Well, I'll tell you, nothing has really changed as far as the process since I started. The cameras have gotten better, but it's still the same concept where there's a removable memory card in there that you take out, put in, your computer, your laptop, and you download them. And then from there you process. So that's still the same today, which is nice. But essentially, let's say I photograph a basketball game and have 3,000 pictures. If I'm not on a deadline and it's just for someone to have the next day or two, there's a different workflow. But what that workflow is I download all of them. Once I have them, I'll toggle through them pretty quick, just with the arrow on the keyboard, just going bam, 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 bam. And I will tag the picture. So I will put a little mark on the picture on my screen that will save that picture. So I'll go through all of them and look for just the ones that are good, the ones that are usable, not blurry, the focus, all of that. Everything is just give me usable ones. And I might get down to, let's say, 300 pictures are good pictures that are within what I would say, a usable look. And then from there, I will go through that 300 and say, okay, let's find 40 that are the best of the best. And I'll apply a different tag to it with a different, code on the screen. And then I'll take those, and then those will get edited. And then the client will get the edited pictures. If they want all 300 that are usable, they can get that in another folder. And that's typically how I'll go from the whole thing down to a couple.
And how do you get those images to the client?
When I first started, I was burning a CD. And I think DVDs became the next thing. You could hold, I think, a little under 5 gigs on a DVD, which would load just like a regular flash drive, but it was on a DVD. And then the little USB thumb drives were a thing. And then I'm going to say around 2012 or 13, I think, is when people started using cloud-based programs, Google Drive, Dropbox, WeTransfer, as well as clients who have a server. So a lot of organizations have just a big hard drive that's on their server that they'll give you access to log into and just upload them straight there.
And so do you have a preferred way, like Dropbox or something like that you tend to use?
I like Dropbox. That's what I use as far as the interface, but I prefer giving the client their pictures directly, because Dropbox, I'm still hosting it for them, and then they're still using a link. They might not have the right access. They may have a firewall at their job that doesn't let them use Dropbox. So it's always best when a client says, please upload directly to this or send it via this way and we'll take them. When it's still on a cloud, they're having to pull it. And let's say I run out of space and I delete it, and then 3 years later they say, we were looking for those pictures you took. Do you still have them? And then if I've taken it down already, I have to go re-upload it, find it on the hard drive. So the best way is if a client says, please use this is ours, just drop them there and we'll take it. That's the easiest.
When back when you were in college time, Microsoft, they used to have a photo editor. I forget what it was called, but I would use it. And it was very easy, I felt, to like upload pictures to it and edit them, as far as like cropping and just all the kinds of basic things that you do. And for some reason, they got rid of it, and whatever they replaced it with is nowhere near has been as good. But I can't remember the name. It's
interesting.
Like photo. Anyway,
I was only PC for a very short time.
Oh, Apple.
Yeah, I had a PC going into college, which I used for school, but then quickly put photo editing software on there. But then sophomore into junior year, I think I want to say that Loyola, the graphic design program, was getting rid of a bunch of Apple products that they no longer needed. So they were selling them for extremely cheap. And I said, oh, well, that seems like a good thing to do. And my friends were already, using Apple products. So I got that for, I think, $300. They have upgraded the hard drive on there. And that was my first Apple product. And ever since then, I've been Apple. Yeah.
Okay. And so, talk about after you finish college or when you're in graduate school, how does your career continue to go up from where it is? Is it just a continual, gradual rising, or are there some big leaps or different things like that are memorable?
Well, it's continual, but it's expanding. It's not just linear. There's also what I'm offering, because I started photographing sports. That's really how this all started, which ends up being one of the hardest things to do. There's a lot more as far as composition, focus, action. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot more gear involved. So in a way, I started doing a challenging thing, which made doing other types of work easier. But I don't make my living just photographing sports. There's more to it. Some people do, but in today's world, it's not as easy as it was. So after college and into grad school, I started doing different types of jobs that were not in my initial scope of work for what I thought I could do. So I started doing things like behind the scenes of a TV show, or photographing food at a restaurant, or doing a portrait of somebody. Those are all things that weren't necessarily on my peripheral in college of, oh yeah, I'll do that, or I could try that. But it also wasn't, you can't do that. You don't know how. Oh, don't tell people that. There was this belief that, okay, I'm sure I could do that. And if I don't do that or don't try to do it, I'll never do it. And then if someone calls, can you shoot a plate of food? No, I don't know how to do that. So I also realized to grow and do this full time, you have to be available to do all sorts of jobs.
Do you use YouTube ever if you're wanting to learn how to do something with photography, or have you ever done that?
In life I do, but not for work. Little bits maybe here and there now, but I think when I was also starting, YouTube was not a how-to resource. So for me, it was more pick up the phone, hey, so-and-so, how do I do this? I can't figure out this one thing. And then a lot of it also was trial and error. I think YouTube is a great resource, but it's too instantaneous. Well, let's find this one video. Okay, great. It's not perfect. I don't know. Let's move on. Whereas without YouTube, you're really forced to figure things out.
Yeah, and if you have people you can talk to, it's a lot. You can cut straight to the point and then ask them the pointed questions to get what you really need, or have them explain it so you can be done with that and learn it.
And not have to watch a sponsor.
And so did you experiment with different jobs as a photographer where you say, hey, I'm going to try to photograph weddings. I'm going to try to photograph this or that, and have some things where you're like, well, I understand why people like, let's say, for example, being a wedding photographer, but I don't want those types of jobs anymore. Are there jobs that you feel like this is just not the kind of photography that I want to do, or you're kind of open to enjoy all the different types?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because I don't photograph weddings, but have I? Yes. But that has been very occasional, whether it's someone I know or whether I'm helping out a friend who is the main person that booked the wedding job. It has been very far and few. So weddings, it was never on my radar of, oh, let's photograph weddings. That sounds great. And working a couple weddings, I've reaffirmed, yeah, that's not the place for you. Now, I'm not poo-pooing weddings, but it's a different mentality. The people who photograph weddings for their career, it is just a different way of life. They have they might only work one day a week, but then they have editing. They have to, book future jobs. It's just a different way of operating that in a way locks you into that being your whole career. And for me, that was just never of interest.
So what are, other than the things you've mentioned, what are some other types of photography work that you do now? That
I do, okay. And then I'll go into what I like versus what I do.
Okay.
I do a lot of events. I cover a lot of events that are on the PR side. So whether it's for a new initiative for a company, or whether an organization is holding an event, whether it's a trade show, a convention, they're still under that event category. And that's just one of my strong suits, that people just know I can do that. I work with a lot of clients that are based here, but I also work with a lot of people that come in town. And that's what occupies a lot of space today, in addition to sports and a little bit of commercial on the side.
A guy I know, I went to high school with, and he's done photography here at one point and does it for Brother Martin, Ralph Ramagera, and his brother Ryan. Do you know? Have you ever worked with them, or do you know them?
I've worked alongside them before.
Yeah,
graduations at, I think, state volleyball championships.
So do you do a lot of travel with your type of work, or is it mostly in the New Orleans area? Or
I'd say 70% is New Orleans, and then the 30 is travel. I've been fortunate enough to do the Super Bowl for the past, I want to say, at least 5 years, and that's a traveling event. NBA, All-Star Weekend, and a couple other events they do, which is a traveling thing. So there are a handful of events that are somewhat predictable that I'll get to do, and then there are also just events that are not on my radar, but a phone call comes through. Are you available next week to travel to so-and-so? Yep. All right, great.
So let's say for the Super Bowl, who's your employer for that?
The AP is who I do a lot of work for. And the AP people know for news articles and stories and pictures. But the AP does a lot beyond that. So the AP is the official content provider for the NFL. So any image that someone wants to commercially license from the NFL, the AP licenses to them. So if Nike wants to take a picture of an athlete, they have to go through the AP to license it from them to then use on their own. So for the Super Bowl, there are so many sponsors and clients that are there that week doing something, and they go to the AP. We'd like this covered. We need a photo. Can you please do this? And there's a team of us that work pretty crazy hours handling it all.
Do you have some pictures that are more, I guess you would say, famous, or a lot of people have seen this picture or these 3-4 pictures that you're like, I took that, and do you have any kind of things like that not that you could name and that people would know, but that I always see this picture and I took that picture, or is it not like that?
It is and it isn't, because today there are so many pictures of mine, I have no clue where they end up. A wire service, AP, someone has it and it goes to the world, or it's a local client and they do what they want. So it's really hard to track. But I would almost say, without being able to figure one out right now, that there are waves where this one photo, let's just say of the Superdome, has been used a lot. And actually, I can think of an example of me seeing it often, but not necessarily knowing if it's been used, more just that articles find it of interest. During COVID, the first season, we were the only people allowed in the Superdome for the games. And I had a wide photo that showed a television camera in the corner and just showed the whole field and the whole building empty. And that photo got used a lot for at least 2 years for any article about TV deals. Oh, this game is moving to Thursday Night Football, or just the Superdome in general. So that photo got used a lot, but it wasn't, oh, this is iconic or this has been seen by millions. I just remember I've seen that in a lot of articles when I search my name. But it goes through waves. Is that photo used a lot today? Probably not as much.
Yeah, but it's neat as far as you're leaving your mark for that point in time where it's a million people are seeing this thing that I created. How do you look at yourself kind of as in a sense, like a painter or
an artist?
An artist, because a lot of us that are listening, we've taken pictures, and there's definitely an art to it where you're like, you can capture certain things, and there's certainly an art to it. And then maybe that's why you went from just being some kid that was in college as a freshman and got a camera, and you had this natural artistic nature with it where people are like, what this person's doing is a little bit different. There's something here.
Yes and no. I don't think of myself as an artist. Friends of mine will say, no, you're an artist. But comparatively, I don't think of a lot of the work that I do as artistic. But I say that because a lot of it is technical, because I am working for someone else. They're not saying, oh, Tyler, just go around the city and take pictures, even though we're a clothing store. just take pictures of an alligator. That's not the artistic way it goes. A lot of it is, we would like a photo of this. Can you, execute this type of an angle and make it look like that? So I don't think of that necessarily as art. That's more following through on what a client wants. Now, if I just on a Sunday wanted to go outside, the sunset looked really neat and I take a photo, that to me is more art. But my work, I don't consider art. If I go to the French Quarter and I go into a gallery and I see black and white photos on the wall and I go, wow, that looks nice, that's art, that person likely has a different view of what they're doing. There's a little more creativeness. Not that my job is not creative, but it still has walls around it. Stay within this box. Now, there are people that make a living doing just art. They commission their own work. And that's, to me, a different area. So I don't think of my work as art, more so a vision that someone has that they want to execute. So
the photos you take are almost none of them owned by you? They're owned by the client?
It depends how that's worked out. It's usually that I own the copyright unless the client is buying out the copyright. That's where you start to get into licensing. So it's not as common now, but it used to be more common where you charge a creative fee to take the pictures, and then the client would say, okay, we'd like to use these however we want for the next 3 years. Okay, it's been 3 years. Your license is up. Would you like to keep using them? Do you not want to? Which means you have to take them down. That used to be how it is. A lot of the time now, people will assume that by hiring you, they own the images. But unless they explicitly say that, I think it still defaults to the creator as the copyright holder. So for certain clients, it is known up front. Like if it's something for a client for the AP, there may be a total buyout where I am paid work for hire, which means here's your flat rate. These images are owned by XYZ.
So is there a lot of time with that where you're having to communicate with people or saying, hey, you're using, my image that you don't have, the license to the rights is expired?
Not in today's world. That's very rare. It's only if someone else takes an image. There's a lot of grace within, okay, you hired me, they're your pictures to use, okay. But if, let's just say, a nonprofit organization hired you to cover an event that they have, and they were going to use it in their news article or on their website, but then someone else that is, let's just, a car manufacturer uses it in a campaign photo or in a brochure, and you never agreed upon that, and the nonprofit never did anything on their end to prevent that, then you'd say, hey, car manufacturer, you don't have the rights to this. And then that could get murky. Now, no one wants to deal with that. That's not fun to deal with, but there is this always protecting that what you're doing is either compensated fairly or it's not being taken advantage of for what that job is.
What about stock photos? On the internet, there are stock photos. Usually they'll have a watermark over them. Have you ever done any work related to that, or what do you know about that?
Within stock photos or within watermarks?
Creating stock photos, and then I guess could you talk about watermarks?
Watermarks, I think, are less of a thing now. I think we live on the internet. People are going to take pictures, and I take meaning steal. So a watermark or not, it doesn't really do a lot in my world. I know other people may have different views. So I used to watermark certain images, or if I had it on a website for someone to preview or they hadn't paid the bill, you could put a watermark on there. But the watermarks are more to protect the bigger companies that will license things. So like a stock website will use the watermark because otherwise anyone can just go take it. But with my photos, someone's usually paying me for them. So as far as it then being used outside of that, it's harder to watch out for that. Now, stock photos, that's a whole space. That's a whole big space. You look at a textbook and there might be a photo of the sun, and that stock photo might come from some company that's licensed it thousands of times. And that's a lot of people used to make their living just with stock photos. It's a little harder now. There's a lot on the internet. You can take a photo on a cell phone, and if it's good enough, a website will take it. And if they sell a picture, you get a cut. So it's hard to make a lot of good money with stock photos, but the other big side of it are the rights. That editorial for a news article, that you don't need permission from someone. Let's say you photograph a bird outside that may belong to someone, but you don't know. That's easier to use in an editorial setting. But to commercially use a stock photo or any photo, you need to get permission from whomever that might be, including buildings. So that's where it's hard. If I have a photo of a building downtown, to commercially license that, if someone wants to use that, that building owner needs to sign off on that.
Oh.
And so working in the stock world, you'll see on the websites if they have any rules on there saying this is only available for news outlets or in certain manners or for a nonprofit. Commercial licenses are not available, or please contact us. And that's where the world changes. You can take a photo of a famous person and use it in an article. You have rights to do that. The famous person can't come after you. But if you then use that picture on a makeup bottle, they're going to come after you.
That makes sense. Are there law firms that just specialize in photography, licensing, and that kind of a thing, like these types of things?
Specialize, yes. And I know people who have actually been involved in cases and lawsuits where they've had to sue organizations or people that have used their photos the wrong way. And there's a lot of money behind that, especially with the damages at hand. Whether it's a pro athlete or even a headphone company that might use a photo on their own, with what damages could have been prevented or what the company gained by using that picture, that's where it starts to get into what's called a legal mess. And you have lawyers who specialize in that and can and really go after the right people. Fortunately, I have not had to deal with that.
So after you're finished graduate school, could you just talk about, I don't know if we've already touched on this, but from where your career is today, it just basically just continued to just sort of gradually expand into different things, but focusing on the things that you feel like you're best at, events and specifically sporting events, but commercials.
There's a couple layers to that. The first layer is that even in grad school, I wasn't sure what I would be doing when I graduated. Am I going to get a job at a marketing firm? Am I moving to New Jersey? Who knows where? Am I moving for this or am I staying here? And I think what came to my mind was that I have built up a business here. I have clients. I have connections. I've been networking. Am I going to throw this all away just to move somewhere else and do something different? And that's when it was, well, no, not right now. There's no need to. And, even in life, I don't think anything is ever finite. Let's say 20 years from now, this is not for me. Let's do something different. I don't think it's too late to start. So graduating, I said, okay, let's keep working. And so I stayed here. But before graduating, I wanted to go back to as far as the path. I remember some friends in college had been saying, video is the next thing. And it was, well, okay. And there are videographers. There's people who do that. But the cameras were changing. The still camera that I use got, I think in 2012, the first one came out, the 5D Mark II, the Canon, which I think was 2012. It could do video. And that, I think game changer is a fair word in that case, because suddenly this camera that only took a photo can now do video with these, professional 35 millimeter lens that give it a movie-like feel. So I remember all this happening and some friends saying, do video, be open to it. And I was, no, or I don't know, maybe, we'll see. I was very, but I slowly started going, okay, well, let's just say video takes off and there are people that are against it. Are they going to be left behind? So I started trying to do a little bit of video, being open to it, playing around with it. All this time, while even in grad school, by making myself available for photo and video, new clients said, oh, you can do video too, or oh, can you do both for us? Oh, this is of value to us. So that started happening too. So that's why I say that my business was growing in terms of what I was doing. So outside of just starting off with sports and then doing food and other things that I wasn't looking to do at first, that grew. But that's when the video also came in. So video became another service to offer. So that's sort of started helping me shape, okay, you're graduating from grad school now. You can do both of these things and people hire you for them both. Make the most of it.
Phone companies, they'll a big selling point to buy a new phone is the camera on the phone. And so you, as a photographer, you're not using a phone to take your pictures, but are you seeing all this as far as, oh, well, this phone, it's so much better than the last phone as far as the photography? Yeah. How does the best phone, the latest iPhone, quality of the picture it takes compare with a good, I guess you'd say DSLR? Is that they still...
Yeah, well, mirrorless is what we're now using.
Okay.
So the DSLR still exists, but that's a mirrored body where the mirror physically moves. Now there's no mirror on there.
Okay, so...
They almost look the same, but there's no physical mirror to flap up and down.
So the mirrorless versus one of the latest iPhone, can you talk about how when you're looking at the pictures, let's say if you put the picture side by side in your editing software, what do you see? What's the difference? There's
a couple layers to that. The cameras are definitely getting better, and there are iPhone pictures that I might not be able to tell a difference from if you just showed me a print of it on a wall. But that's in the optimal environment. When you take photos at night, it's going to be grainy and dark and it could be blurry. It's getting better, but that's one thing where a regular camera still holds out. But the iPhones are getting really good, but iPhones still do some back-end work to it. There's still, I don't know if I want to call it AI, but there's still processing that the camera is taking what it sees and adding some enhancements to it to make it look the way it does. When I take a photo on a camera, on my Canon cameras that are all manual, that is exactly what I see. It's not doing any type of saturation or sharpness or contrast. There's none of that. And I'm not saying the iPhone does that to every picture, but there is some processing that it does to show you, oh, wow, that looks nice. So that's a little bit of a false sense of reality from what you're seeing with the naked eye. So if I'm taking a photo of you right now, it might light your face up a little bit better where there's not as much shadow from this overhead light, whereas my camera would do that. So some people might say, oh, the iPhone's way better than my camera at home. But that's also not realizing that it's actually editing in a way.
Oh, so there's a lot of automatic edit features.
A little bit.
Or some automatic edit features that it does.
The features are getting better, but I don't think they're going to necessarily replace a camera right away. And I say that because the cameras are getting smaller, but there's still so much technology in there that I don't think there's a way to squeeze everything that a true camera can do into a phone. Otherwise, they would do it. The phone companies are competing with the camera companies, so if they had the ability to, they'd absolutely go that full route. So I think that still is a good thing. But I will say that the iPhone has taken work away from us. There are times where we've gotten a call for a job, and it's an event, and then we get told, oh, never mind, we're not going to hire someone. We're just going to use our phone. It's like, okay, great. That it is what it is. And usually it might be a group photo. And there are plenty of times where that can be plenty for the client. And hey, I can't argue with that. Mm-hmm. But when they try to take photos that are more action or in a dark environment, someone's speaking and they're pinching on the screen to zoom in. And then they go, oh, it was blurry or we couldn't really use them. Did you hire someone or were you using a phone? So we're still in that area where people think the phone can replace us, but it's not there yet.
When you're traveling for events, like with Super Bowl as a standard example, the travel costs, are they covered by whoever's hiring usually, or are you having to pay the travel costs?
Every job is different. Personally, most of my travel is, let's say, reimbursed. There are examples of where someone might say, we will give you a flat rate to do this job, factor that into your airfare and things of that sort. But the ideal way is that the client says, here's what the job pays. Please tell us what the flight is. Okay, the flight's been approved. We will reimburse you for that. Sometimes a client will book the flight for you, but in today's world, a lot of it is you book it, we'll pay you back, which some people don't like because you're acting as a bank. You're basically loaning the company money for your travel expense. Other people like it because they might get points through their card provider. So there's a lot of back and forths, but there is no one way that it's handled.
And what about working for yourself as far as, I'm used to working for someone, for an organization. So there's the healthcare and retirement to a certain degree and that kind of a thing. How do you deal with the healthcare and retirement and those types of things as a self-employed person?
With a lot of headaches. No, it's all on my own. Health insurance I have to pay for. It's not cheap. There's no one else to help out. There's no employer. The same goes for any type of financial planning. There's no 401k provided. So any investments are all on my own. Same goes for taxes. Same goes just for anything related to the business. I have to have my own liability, my own insurance, camera insurance, equipment insurance. All of that is on me. So it is, whether it's a single person or it's a whole company, I am the one running all of that.
I noticed that for a while you've been using a drone.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about when that got started? How did you get started in using a drone in your business?
I think the drones that we know today became popular maybe around 2014 or so. I think DJI came out with the Phantom back then. That's probably, let's call that a general time frame. And they were always neat to see, and I had friends with them, but I always said, no, that's not for me, or not right now, or I don't want the liability of that. Let's just, I don't need that. Almost in a way of the people that were against adding video to their skills. So I was not looking to do it. And a big reason was just the legality of it all, because back then there were no rules. People were just doing it. And then I want to say 2016, maybe 17, the FAA came out with guidelines, including a license to operate a drone. And that's when, okay, I could do this. But I still was not open to it. And I had some friends saying, get your license, you can start doing drone work. But I was content. And I said, no, why do this? Or no, that's too much to have, riding over me. And then COVID happened, and it was, all right, well, I'm home now, not really doing much. I've been open to this idea of getting the license, but I don't want to take a test. I don't like taking tests. It's too much. But I said, you've got nothing else to do. Now, I still delayed. I was still sitting at home, not working, but I didn't do it until a year or two after COVID started. But I finally got my drone license. And that's when I could then tell people, yes, I can do drone work for you now. I can offer drone services, because I didn't want to just go rogue and say, yeah, I'll do drone stuff, but not have everything that I need. I know, and I've seen plenty of people that use drones without having the right license, the right insurance, and flying where they shouldn't. But I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm doing it right. You're flying over people. It's not like you're just standing on the sidewalk. So I might have to ask you to ask some follow-ups, but I've been doing drone work for the past, let's say, 2 or 3 years.
And what types of clients usually use the drone type work?
All sorts of clients. I think they're similar to a gimbal or a handheld video camera. There are tools that people overuse, and there's times where it's just not relevant. If I'm just taking a picture of a building for somebody, but the building isn't pretty or they're not going to use it, it doesn't have a place. So a lot of the clients want something that the drone provides that they can't get from me on the ground. Let's say, I'm just going to make this up on the fly, there's a soccer tournament that someone's having with a big new field. They don't necessarily need hundreds of drone pictures, but they might want a picture that shows all 10 fields filled with kids at the same time, because that's good for them to have a recap photo. They might use that to show a sponsor next year. You should sponsor our event. Look at the impact. Look how many people showed up. So there's always a purpose to it. And as I said, if you can't do it on the ground, can you do it from the air? But is it worth it? There's certain times where you take a picture from up top and it doesn't really show anything. It's not dynamic, or it's flat, or whatever the focus is way too far away. So there always has to be a storytelling angle of what is this drone angle doing for me that is not already provided by just standing.
A lot of times when I've seen it, it's with real estate.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot
That's
of
a big
people
one.
use it for aerial views of the house and that kind of a thing. Have you ever done any work with real estate?
Not directly. I know there are people that make a living doing real estate, but that's similar to weddings, where there are people who really focus on just real estate, and they might do 5 properties in a day. I haven't gotten into that. Not that it's not possible in the future, but just right now that hasn't been a thing. People also use drones to map. They will get hired by a construction company to fly their drone and map out different points, whether it's elevation or just even a parking lot, where they can say, okay, from this one curb to here is 13 feet to go there. And it gives them just new information that, Google Earth or a satellite picture can't do for you. So that's also a new thing, but it's also higher resolution because Google, you can only zoom in so far. So you fly a drone over that property, you now have a high res picture that you can look at, scan, and get more info on. So that's another area where it's not necessarily visual, but it's using a drone as a tool.
And how do you learn with the drone as far as not to fly it into things and trees and things like that?
A couple prayers, some luck or rabbit's foot. No, the flying of it, when you're taking the test and you're learning a lot about what weather and how the drone works and just aviation. So there's a lot going into it as far as learning, okay, here's what could happen. For example, when it's windy outside, you don't want to fly your drone. But is it necessarily because it'll get blown into a building? Possibly, but it's more so if the wind blows the drone upside down, then you could be done and the drone just falls straight down. And of course, where's it landing? So a lot of the learning is, I'm going to call it common sense, but it's also knowing, okay, there's likely a storm coming. So there might be a gust of 20 miles an hour. Not today. And then even within flying and learning how to be safe, okay, let me first go straight up and straight down. Let me learn these movements versus taking these joysticks and just pushing it somewhere. It's similar to driving where you have to know what does the gas feel like to push down a little bit? What does it feel like to jam on the brake versus easily, push on the brake? Similar to a drone. Let me feel the movements even though it's not physically attached to me. I have to feel this out and know my limits and what I'm comfortable doing.
So how often do you fly the drone?
It's very sporadic. I might be doing twice in 1 week. It might sit on the shelf for 3 weeks. It all depends what's going on and where. I like to use as much as I can. The drones are so small now you can travel with it. There are drones that fold up, and I think I've seen one that is about the size of an iPhone folded, and then it opens and you can just fly with it. So it's fun even just on vacation I'm at the beach. I'd love to get a cool photo at sunset of the waves crashing on the sand and get the sun in the background. So it really depends on what I have going on. But if I'm busy, it might not get used unless there's a need for it.
It seems like this is a really expanding field, the drones. I see it especially with warfare. A lot of terrorist groups and also just conventional militaries are
Intel
using
also.
drones. Intel. Yeah, it's being used a lot more for those types of things. And then
Amazon's using it now, packages.
Delivering the packages, right?
I saw in person in Dallas last year, I can't think of the company, but there was a pilot program where they were doing, I think it was Walmart, where they were doing deliveries. So in the parking lot, they had a commercial sized drone that's probably, let's say 3 feet fully opened up, 3 feet wide. And they would take the package in the parking lot. It would fly and it would go to wherever it was going and drop it. I think the package had to be under 1 or 2 pounds so it could have, the parachute and softly land, but they're doing it.
Wow.
And then, farmers are using it. There are drones you can buy now that cost $20,000-$30,000 that have, like a 1 gallon tank on there so they can spray pesticides, fertilizers, and instead of having to hire a pilot to fly an airplane and spray whatever chemical or treatment on the crop, a drone operator can do it. But now the farmer can get the drone license and just do it themselves.
Yeah, and it's probably a lot safer as far as I see these commercials with mesothelioma. Farm workers are a lot of
exposed to all those.
Exposed to those, and if you're doing it through drone, it's probably a lot.
You still have to load it.
That's true.
But I think the main thing is just your safety. That
your distance from it when it's actually being sprayed, at least, so it's better. If
there's a crash, it's going to fall on strawberries and not on a human.
Yeah.
And there's no human in there. So there are some life-saving measures. There's also firefighting. I don't know if it's been done in the U.S. or just tested. I've seen it in other countries.
China, right?
I think so. I want to say Europe. But they now have drones that are electrically powered. So there's a cable that runs to the drone. So this is for a skyscraper, let's say 30 stories. The drone has a cable to provide power, but that same cable has water going to it. And so they're not going to run out of batteries, and they can go up to whatever floor and just right in there.
Makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen something like that on social media, and it looked like it was in China or something that they were doing it. But yeah, skyscrapers is mainly kind of what.
And there's human drones too now. You've seen the prototypes of where you can sit and steer yourself in a drone.
I think they're they're selling one or something now.
Trying
or,
to.
Okay.
I think legally that's going to be hard because I don't think that those are FAA certified just yet. So you're buying an aircraft that's not technically certified to fly in, but then you are flying yourself in controlled airspace. There's a lot of gray area with that, but that's my concern is that whether it's fun to someone, a 10-year-old has a drone, whether it's a farmer, there are going to be a lot more things in the air, and that's we have to watch out for that.
Yeah,
especially the real airplanes and helicopters that are already flying. That we don't want to interfere with them.
It's exciting though.
Oh yeah, technology is wild. That's why I don't know the future. That's why I can't say that the iPhone won't take over. I don't know. I have no idea what a year from now looks like. I can predict and I can keep working, but I don't know what this will look like.
Yeah, it's just like when the video came in with the camera, you're like, well, you don't know is this something where I should go to this because this is the future, or this is just kind of like the fad of the moment and it'll be ridiculous 5 years later that people had video on their phone or something like
Even
this.
The smartphone. Oh, I have a flip phone. Why do I need a smartphone? And then you see, these are features that are handy.
Yeah.
Or smart boards, everything. Smart this, smart that. We just got to think for ourselves, though.
Yeah. And so, or is there something that we haven't touched on that you wanted to talk about?
I think advice for the youth.
Okay.
And I think this might be a general thing. I think, you might have some thoughts on this too, but a lot of, whether they're students or just younger people, will ask me, oh, how do I get into this business? Or how do I, get on the sidelines at this cool event? Or how do I go to a concert and shoot something? And they're fair questions, but people don't always like the answers that they get because there is not necessarily a fast track to do that, but there's also what it comes with. So sure, being on an NFL sideline sounds great, but it's not likely that you can just figure out a way to just do that. And even if it's not the bills being paid, to just get there. Similar to me, you're going to have to do different things and you have to improve yourself. You have to show you can do things. And I think the younger generation doesn't want to hear that. They just want to know, can I do it or not? Oh, never mind. Too much work. I'll do something different.
Well, but maybe that's unfair in the sense that that's because there's a lot of people that would like to do it. And that's true basically of our generation. There's a lot of people that would like to do various things, but they don't love it, and they don't. Maybe God's hand isn't in it for them. It's in something else for them, and so when they're doing those 10,000 hours, to kind of master the thing, if you've got to have to love it really, for the most part, for what other people would be like, oh, why no, I'm not doing that. I could stay home and eat potato chips, and you want me to go shoot this volleyball game? That's crazy. But if there's something driving you, you just love doing what you're doing, that's what leads you to progressing through the thing. And that's the answer, right? And so there are people, young people right now that it's going to click for them and they love it, and they're going to push through those steps because it's just like eating candy for them to go to shoot the volleyball game and that kind of thing. It's not something that is unpleasant. It's something they want to go do. Those are the people that it's meant for or that it just clicks for, right?
And I think people have to want it. So that's why if someone says to me, how do I do this? How do I get to be where you are or do this thing? And I ask them, are you willing to do what it takes, or do you just want an answer that makes you happy but is not involving all the work? So when someone says no, I want to know, that's what I like to hear, because I can't help someone who doesn't want to take the advice they're being given. So that's my message for the generation that wants to do the next thing, is that, are you willing to put in the work and face the adversity and even the feedback of, that picture's not good, versus no, it's good. Well, you asked for feedback and I'm telling you that it needs improvement. So that's what I look at, because I went through it, but my generation was a little more open to it or accepting of the facts versus there's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way.
Yeah. The worst of human nature, not the worst, but a bad part of human nature is where they're just wanting immediate
gratification,
immediate success, and it's very rarely does that happen that way. And
there's a bunch of sayings, isn't that like good things happen overnight, great things happen over time, or, good things don't come easy in life.
Yeah, or I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a lot of ones I like to listen to were stand-up comedians on it, and they say, well, yeah, I became a star overnight after 20 years, or something like that. Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with success happening instantly or right away or with very little resistance. That's all great.
No. They'll say I became a star overnight
after 20. Oh yeah,
years.
No. I follow that.
Okay.
And I'm adding that if people can do something and it just clicks right away, that's awesome. But a lot of people have to know that if it doesn't happen right away, are you going to give up? And even in my work, I'd love to be doing this. How come I'm not there yet? Well, am I just going to quit or am I going to persevere? And that's what I see a lot more of now is that, I tried that for a week. I thought this was your passion. I thought you want to do this for a living. Well, I do. A week seems pretty short. What else are you going to do? So I like just to tell people, focus on what you want to do, keep the goal in mind and work with it. Listen to others, be open to help in whatever form it comes in.
And what is that thing that makes a person love the particular thing, photography in this example, but there's a million other things that are other people's things. Going back to the beginning, is that God at play, or is it just, I don't know, what is it that makes you, just love photography and have a knack for it and that kind of thing, and then 1,000 other people who had the camera and the same opportunities, either didn't have one or the other. What is it?
You mean, why do I like it, or what is it about it?
Yeah, what is it for you with photography, but for everybody with whatever their thing is, everybody that has a thing, and I guess
exposure is the word that comes, and no pun intended with the word exposure with what I do for a living. But if you're not exposed to something, you don't necessarily know it exists. And your interest might not be piqued. And I think that's why it's important for people, especially kids, to be curious, and I'm not saying don't play video games and don't do this and do that. But, your childhood is when I think you're supposed to be exploring all kinds of things and saying, oh, that's this and that's that. And, as you go through school, you're a little more focused on just, all right, study, do this and do that. But by the time college comes around, you major in something and then you're just so shallow, you don't know what to do. And I think people have to explore their curiosities because you don't know what it'll lead to. Someone might say, oh yeah, I made a little birdhouse one time, a little wood project. Actually, I think I like that. I should try that again. You know what? Maybe I like woodworking now. And that leads to cabinet making or who knows what it is. But when people don't explore those curiosities, I don't think they ever know what they like to do. And that's similar to me. I knew I liked taking pictures. I didn't necessarily know why or how, but I knew I enjoyed it. And I followed through with that, and look what it led to. So by not letting yourself deviate from what you're either told to do or just only know of, you're never going to know what could be.
But you already had a sense that a camera might be something you wanted to explore once you got that money from the DJing job.
Oh, but I knew that it was fun as a kid just to take a picture. Even if I didn't see the picture, I said, "Oh, Daddy, give me the camera." That was just a fun thing to do. But that little curiosity kept in my head of, oh yeah, you like taking pictures. Okay. Go through with that. Whether it's sports.
So the message maybe for young people is there's probably some things like that, and maybe you don't even recognize them, and they're in your subconscious. You don't know that not everybody was so interested in taking pictures as you were, for example, and there are things for that like that for them, but it's about kind of feeding those things and experimenting with those things, doing a little extra work so you can buy the camera or whatever the camera is for you, and then trying that out. And then, maybe you quit after 3 weeks because it's not the thing you have a passion for, but you tried it, and then you go try the next thing.
Or you keep it as a hobby and you move on to something that's more of a profession for you.
Yeah. But if you if you never invested that money, instead of, I'm going to go to use that money at a bar, and instead you bought that camera. If you hadn't done that, maybe none of this happens.
We might not ever know.
Yeah.
I think the message to what you're saying for me is listen to your own voice. You can listen to others, but don't discredit what you think. That gut feeling, the voice in your head saying, oh, do this. Don't let the others say, no, why bother? Oh, you can't do that. Or who do you think you are? If that's what gets in your head, then you can never listen to your own soul.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it all starts. And of course, there's support from others, and there's good and there's bad. But if your voice is telling you, I'm interested in this, don't let that be squashed by an external factor.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining me today, Tyler Kaufman. And
my pleasure.
For people that might be interested in hiring you for a job, could you just talk again about what type of general work, the most types of work that you do, and then where they could see some of your work perhaps, and then how it's best that they could contact you if they want to hire you or learn more?
Great question. So a lot of the work that I do is event, commercial, and sports. Those encompass a lot of the jobs that I do. So whether you're an organization that has an event happening, you want photos taken, whether you are, let's say, a nonprofit that wants a video for your website that shows what you do, whether you're a team that needs photos of a tournament that you're in, it's all fair game. You can Google me to see a lot of pictures and where they appear. That's a great way because you'll actually see a lot of photos that are not on my website in use online, all sorts of articles and websites. As far as where people can find me, kaufmanproduction.com is my main website. That's where I have my photo and video on there. And people can click either one and see all my work and contact me through the website. And
it's one F, one N?
Kaufman, production with no S.com.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.